Hey guys, welcome back. Thanks again for joining me for another installment. And I'm just catching up on this huge compendium. And I am in my studio, Atelier Artista. And what I'm creating right now has created a huge amount of chaos in my studio. So when things get a little crazy and hectic, I like to sit down, open a book to have some quiet time and just focus on what's before me. And that helps me to relax and get the chaos out of my mind. Well, sometimes. It really depends what you're reading. And maybe comic books are a bit too flimsy and light reading for you. And you're in for something that you can really sink your teeth into. Something hefty. So maybe, like this, you've got all the comic books bound into one great big book. Or something you may have noticed I didn't really talk about in the previous episode. And that is graphic novels specifically. I'm Brian Batista, and my friends call me Bunny. And it might just be because I'm one lucky bunny. If you saw my last episode, number 72, it's up here if you haven't already, you got a condensed history of sequential art. But you may have noticed I didn't really cover graphic novels. So in this episode, we're going to dive deeper into graphic novels and, more importantly, storytelling. This is episode 73, The Language of Graphic Novels and Comic Books, Part 2, Graphic Novels, and most importantly, storytelling. When I taught my creating comics and graphic novel course at Mount Royal University, students were expected to do homework on top of the 18 hours of in-class instruction. You guys are getting a really condensed version here. So I implore and encourage you to find time to get and develop your own ideas and to write and edit them. I will share with you tools throughout and the mind map on this board at the end. If you like these videos, please let me know by leaving a comment below. Hit the like, share it, or subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so that you know when I drop the next episode. All of this helps the YouTube algorithms and helps me allow this channel to grow so I can continue making excellent content for free for you. Now, with all that important YouTube video stuff being said and put out of the way, let's get on with the lesson. And let's continue with a bit more history. I was the artistic director on the USAY Blackfoot graphic novel projects. I will put a link below so you can obtain your free graphic novel if there's still any out there, and to find out more. There are many interesting things about this project, including animated video. This project used the format of comics and graphic novels to preserve the Blackfoot language. And in this project, I was the artistic director, which means that I hired an elder to create a story, and youth that I oversaw and taught in creating the story and artwork. Not only would you get the graphic novel, but in the back would be a DVD. And on this DVD, we had a documentary, tons of additional information, the making of, as well as a motion graphic novel. So while you read along and looked at the pictures, you could see an animation, but you could also hear the Blackfoot words. I'm incredibly proud of all the hard work my participants did, and many of them are going on and pursuing creative careers. In fact, one of my main artists have also taken over this project after I left. If you want to know more and check out what you can online through USAY, I will leave a link in the description below. Alright, so now you know a little bit more about my history, personal background, and experience. Let's return our sights onto the rest of the world, and a few of the picks I think are just essential, must-have knowledge about. But in order to do that, I need to go get the handy-dandy green screen once again and set it up. The exact definition of graphic novel is debated, but basically, it's any long-form comic book. And the term graphic novel was coined by fan historian Richard Kyle and adopted by the general comics community after the publication of Will Eisner's A Contract with God in 1978. The term was used partly to mask the low culture status that comic books had, and used to refer to short-form periodicals and talk outside of the magazine format and into the book format. The graphic novel category began in bookstores around 2001, and now you can go into any comic book store and you will see the enormous selection of titles available in the marketplace. Alright, that ought to do. In 1985, Watchmen by Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons received critical acclaim and remains one of the best-selling graphic novels of all time. One of my first introductions into graphic novels is this one. In 1992, Art Spiegelman's Mouse wins a Pulitzer Prize. It depicts the biographical story of Spiegelman's own parents in World War II during the Holocaust. I highly recommend those three if you're just dipping your toes in the water. They had a huge effect on me in loving graphic novels. Now let's go into what your story should be about. And to do that, we need to define the difference between fiction and nonfiction. So the basics are this. Fiction is something made up and not real, something that you imagine. Also, movies tend to be fiction, excluding documentaries. Nonfiction is factual, real-world material. It can be biographies based off something's life, or you could write about your own experiences and internal dialogue. Before we even get pencil to paper or fingers to keyboard, let's look at what are the possible topics we could write about. We can use history or personal experience as a starting off point. We can look back to history like we did in a previous episode at cave paintings, Egyptian hieroglyphs, even more, or historical figure. There are so many exceptional sources from the past, be it biography or history, fairy tales, fables, or mythology, which we'll touch on shortly. One thing you must respect is copyright and intellectual property, so be wary. Luckily, fairy tales and myth aren't owned by anyone, which explains why Disney is constantly using them. Maybe they're a little bit cheap. Your own personal story is relatable, plus you know the material. You can also create something entirely new from scratch. You may already have a cast of characters that you're working from, or take something from your dreams. This imagined world, you take these characters and place them in interesting situation where you have rules that you've created, put them together, and allow things to unfold. There are also universal themes, and these ones are common to every story. Life, love, depth. They can be seen in the major arcana of the tarot or in myth. And there's someone I want you to become familiar with, and that is Joseph Campbell, and in particular two of his books, The Power of Myth and The Hero with 1,000 Faces. Campbell was also credited by George Lucas, creator of Star Wars. And there is a great PBS video of Joseph Campbell being interviewed by Bill Moyers. And in this series, he discusses mythological, religious, and psychological archetypes. Now, you can find this in your library, or you can probably search it out here on YouTube, and maybe screen grab, throw it in the back. It looks a little bit dated, but the quality of information is timeless. Let's go to the blackboard and look more in depth at the cycle of the hero's journey. So let me just get the green screen out of the way here. Remember back to our school days, we'll remember the arc of a story kind of looks like this. We have our beginning, our rising action, our climax, and the denouement. Every story needs to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. But along that journey, you can be anywhere in time. So let's look at the hero's journey, which you can see is prominent in movies like Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, really any movie where there's an action type hero. At the very beginning, we have our hero, which I'll just draw like a little star here, our hero. The hero's journey is also split up into realms. We'll just slice it here. The top being the ordinary world, what we know and see. So I'm just going to draw a little bit of grass here. So somewhere there's a call to adventure. This call to adventure takes the hero out of the cycle of the known world into the unknown. At first, this hero refuses the call. There's some sort of reasoning behind not wanting to do it, some sort of reluctance. The hero then meets some sort of mentor, some sort of older or wiser character that can teach the hero or show them something that gets their power from within. They could give them a magical tool or something that they could use going forward as they cross the threshold. Here being our threshold. As the hero crosses the first threshold, something with them is tested. Maybe something that they were told by the mentor or some sort of tool or device they were given unlocks the key for them to cross from the known world into the challenges of the unknown world. This whole section past the threshold are where trials and tribulations, tests and challenges occur. So we'll just say challenges. These are tests. They make friends and helpers, so allies and enemies as they move towards temptation. This temptation along the way could be that maybe one of these helpers is on the bad side, drawing them in to not learning the lessons that they've begun on this journey, maybe even just to give up, kind of to sell out before they get to the lowest part of our cycle, and the most important, I think, is the ordeal. And here I'll draw fire. This ordeal is where they may face death, where their biggest challenges for transformation and rebirth will come from. As the hero gains friends and moves down through the ordeal and the challenges, this is where they have their greatest test, let's say trial by fire. As they move down past all the challenges to the main ordeal, this is where our hero has their revelation. This is a large part of the transformation that all these trials, challenges, and tribulations has brought the hero to resolve. One of the things that occurs is that they've changed so much, they're given the option or the chance to refuse to return to the known world. So we'll say refusal. This refusal to return could also be their corruptibility. They will have an atonement on the road back from the unknown world into the known world. And why is there a return? Well, the hero needs to cross a threshold again and bring back the spoils of their success through their cycle of learning from the call to adventure. There are many ways of looking at this hero's journey. We can take this cycle, stretch it out along a line, and have a timeline from left to right with acts 1, 2, and 3, where the climax and excitement is here, and this is the denouement, bringing us back to the completion of our story. My very brief introduction into the ideas of the hero's journey is just to get your creative juices flowing. There are many ways that you can get your story down. Just remember, it needs a beginning, a middle, and an end, and where you start in this sequence is up to you. The main thing is to make it exciting, you have to have change. Something has to happen, right? So, there are three main components to creating your visual story. The first is style, and I don't mean cool shirts with bunnies on them. The style is the look and the feel, the time, everything that happens in the environment. Number two, the theme, which we talked about earlier. What is it about? Are there moral repercussions? What is the message you want to get across? And the third thing is plot. And plot are the points, the actual events that occur along this timeline or cycle. Now, graphic novel and comic book writers favor two script styles. Number one would be the Marvel style, which is a plot-driven script. Well, the advantage of a plot-driven script is it allows the artist to be more open in their interpretation, as opposed to a full script, which is more what possibly DC and what movies and screenwriters would use. And it would be driven by dialogue, which in our graphic novel or comic book is what would live in the voice balloons, which we'll get into in the next episode. The final tool I want to leave you with is another way to generate ideas if you don't know what you want, by creating a mind map. I'll do it on this side of the board over here. So with the mind map, I'm just going to allow the ideas to flow out naturally. Just the things I'm thinking of, and kind of pick them out of the air, put little circles around them and connect them with lines. So I want to start with, where might my scene be? And I'm really interested in pirates. So I'll start with that. I want something pirate related, but I want these pirates to be in air balloons, rather than just plain old pirate ships. They're gonna live in the sky. So I'll put sky there. And maybe it's the future and the earth is scorched, and so it's a desert. Not a dessert, it's a desert. And maybe they have to be in the air, and they throw things over and collect water, right, to survive. It's hot and dry. Maybe it's smoky and on fire, and they can't land these ships because it's too hot to be on the earth. So instead of coolness and water and drowning, it's more dry and fiery. Okay, so I've got my setting and I've kind of have something. Now I need to drive it forward. So I need some characters. It's dry and hot. How about we do things that like cold and like water, like penguins and dolphins, you know? And I guess we can have some birds too. It being pirates, maybe there's a battle and there'll be some cannons, some cannon fodder. We need some sort of thing to happen. Maybe there's a battle where different pirate factions are fighting each other. So I've got some scenes, I've got some characters. Well, penguins, which are birds, is kind of funny because, you know, pirates have those birds on their shoulders. So we've got some birds here for sure. And also because I've got penguins and cold, I want to somehow get igloos in here. So rather than just writing the scenes and having dialogue right away, I'm talking about the things I want to see and draw. Maybe I'm better at drawing mountain scenes or trees. So this is something that you just go freeform. And as you're creating your story, if you want to do some sort of inventory of content or characters, you simply knock them off as you go, making sure that those free flow of ideas get out there. And if there's ideas you don't want, you just scratch them out. And it doesn't just have to be written words. You can draw little pictures. However you like to work to generate ideas, I put forth to you to create a mind map. I want you to play around with the idea of a mind map, creating and drawing the things that interest you that might become part of your story and in the future episodes. So, in order to move forward, let's do a quick review of what we've covered. So, in quick review, what did we cover today? I told you a little bit about my background and some of the projects I've worked on. We talked about graphic novel history, and I gave you a couple recommendations of graphic novels that really inspired me. And then we talked about what should you write about, the difference between fiction and nonfiction. We talked about themes, be it historical, fairy tales, mythological, and universal themes. We quickly went over the hero's journey and some of the components to creating a visual story, which are style, theme, and plot. We glanced over writing methods, scripts, treatments, and also ended on the mind map to help you get the ball rolling. I know that that's a lot to cover, but you can always revisit the video, you can take notes. I want you guys, if you like this, to leave something in the comments below. Give me a thumbs up, share it, like it, subscribe, hit that bell on the YouTube algorithm to help me out. Challenge yourself by giving yourself some self-imposed homework. Create a mind map and generate some ideas for the next episode, where I'll show you some things that are unique only to this art form. So, go get at it. I'm Brian Batista. My friends call me Bunny, and I'm really happy you joined me. And until next time, I'm an Atelier Artista, and I'm gonna get to work myself. Thanks for joining me. Ciao.